It's asking me to enter the time. But, like, while I can do that for you, game, you're more than welcome. I don't know if this means it hasn't saved anything from last time. Oh, I'm actually gonna have to rotate this. All right. I almost like the hostile design of this. All right, so we are 9:08 a.m. in local time. Hang on. Hang on. Before we get started, can I just say something? Thank you for actually setting the clock both times you booted up the game. A lot of people don't take that step seriously. They just leave the clock set to 12 and call it a day. But you're actually taking the time to set the clock, and I appreciate that. That's how I know you care about this experience, that you're paying attention. Thank you. I don't even have a way of knowing if the times you're setting are correct. I'll tell you what, I'll make you a deal. Since you've been so cooperative, next time you boot up the game and see the screen, just set the clock to your favorite time. Okay. Go ahead. Pick whichever time you want. Even if it's not the correct time, you've earned it. All right, I'll let you get back to the video game now. So, I had no way of knowing that was coming when I decided in the original, the first episode that went up on YouTube, to still include the time segment at the start. I just figured there's gotta be a reason they were asking me for the time. We played for 5 hours after that. It had never referenced the time again. This is something I've loved so much about playing Stanley Parable. This is something I've loved so much about playing a lot of games like Legend of Grimrock, like a lot of dungeon crawlers, a lot of like Dark Souls, obviously, and digging into the lore of Dark Souls and Elden Ring. Because every single time you give the developer the chance to go, you're doing something intentionally. I want to know what you're doing with that. They do. They follow up. They're the mailman they always deliver. If they don't have it in their pocket, then they got it in their other pair. All right. Let's get in. The end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end. It's never the end. Hey, Advice Colin. Good to see you.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
Whoa, that's not the correct one. I forgot which button to press. If only I had a life as simple as Stanley and there was a screen telling me exactly which buttons to press. Also, I poorly labeled my Stream Deck buttons, so frankly, that could exist for me, but I betrayed myself in the past. I'll catch you around that one. You go. All right. Let's get out of here, Stan.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
We get the bucket later, right? Yes. Thank you.
Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed.
Thank you. I was worried we wouldn't have one. So, my feeling is that the game is basically divided up into 3 sections. There is the Stanley Parable default content that exists in the game. Then there is the getting of the bucket. And then there is the bucket everything else. So you get the bucket, you go back into the original game, and then you use the bucket in all of the original game's endings. So, there are a couple that we've already pursued. I think I remember most of them. Hopefully. We're going through a bucket list, as it were. That's exactly right,
Stanley
Advice.
clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay. Now, what if we didn't do that?
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
The only way to be.
Had the bucket turned out to be correct?
I actually take that back.
Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
So, down the end of here, we have a couple different options. We could stay on the lift right until the very end. If we stay on the lift until the very end, we can go into the room and we can see the phone. We can either pick up the phone with the bucket, or we can take the plug away from the wall with the bucket. I think we've done both of those. I don't...
No, said the bucket. Don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift.
Now, I think I also did jump off
said
here.
The bucket. Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do. Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him.
That way.
It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
Did he? Because we are here betraying the bucket. Is there another path out of this one? Strange sound the first time we interacted with that.
No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, no buckets past this point. Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket.
I've proven myself...
Step in here for a moment.
I've proven myself exceptionally competent at that. Is there any way for us to now opt out? Just leave? No. This is just going to take us back into the game show, at which point I should probably just reload. Yep. Alright. Begin the game again. That one is a dead end.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he... It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego and then proceeded on. Stanley...
You gotta be careful. You could be outshone by the bucket.
The door on his left.
Quite literally as well as metaphorically. Now, the final of this requires me to go to where the red and blue doors are in the original game, which I do not recall where those are. We can see here mission status for the final collectible, somewhere both red and blue. There is a choice between red and blue at one point. I've done all of the broom closetry. I think I've gone upstairs with this bucket more times than I can count. Upstairs would lead us to the underground of the facility. If we go into the underground of the facility, Then we have the ability to destroy and escape with the bucket or leave.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
There's red downstairs. I think downstairs is the ending that you just leave. I think that's the Mariella ending. I don't know where all these endings are that I keep missing. I know they exist. I was hoping that would include some line about the bucket.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
Okay, so it is the same one. I was wondering if there would be a bucket variant. 2845. Okay. We're getting close. 1337.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useful, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
The bucket has a mind of its own. And that mind of its own has a bucket. Its bucket's all the way down. So it looks like one of our following choices past this point is going to be reversing this one as well.
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
We should all be so lucky as to have a bucket.
Wait, Stanley said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
That's approval. I'm pretty sure that's resounding approval. All right. I'll hit it a couple of times just to make
Stanley.
sure.
Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. Stanley looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stanley, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stanley had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator.
I'm going to follow the narration perfectly here. So as soon as I get tired of this, I'm going back in the elevator. By the way, thank you all to those who contributed to the hype train. I will get to notifications afterwards. Okay, I think that's enough. No. I need to press it 3 more times. It just didn't feel comfortable without all those. Really what I'm trying to do is, because 2845 is the actual code,
Perhaps
I'm just trying to...
the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stanley got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly.
Also, it actually cuts out the trip. You know what? I think the bucket is just not really seeing what needs to be seen.
No, said Stanley to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing.
I just wanted to wear down the 3 so it would seem as though it was part of the code and fool any prospective burglars. But really, if I also get to, while doing so, impress upon this bucket the importance of 3.
This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears. And the whole time, he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all.
Just
Only
resonance.
silence.
Please.
Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stanley returned to the elevator.
I'll impress the importance of 3 upon this bucket yet.
Stanley and the
By
bucket
coming
were
up and
so
doing this a
close.
third time.
They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stanley's? The question caused Stanley to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be?
Teaching the rule of 3s by going back up a third time. We don't even get a notification for this one. Okay. I think the game is trying to juke us out here.
Said Stanley. I know what to do. I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there that he would hold a press conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over. He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it. Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others. It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stanley's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stanley's work.
I thought the lift was going a little longer.
He advertised and marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stanley was as prepared as he'd ever been for anything in his life.
World's healthiest human being. All tricks revealed. How we did it. The pyramids. And my favorite, live. The guy who went to Mars. It's just a very humble dude just pointing to himself. Are we getting into the Stanley Parable 3 now? I think that's the only thing that makes sense, right? To finally impress upon the bucket the importance of 3, we need to do what Valve can't. The storyteller. Stanley reveals all in his new book. Other text that is too small. An evening with world peace, baby. It does really seem like you would just watch them sleep. Stage door, as well as the Stanley Parable Stanley. Tonight live on stage. In the distance, the man, the process, the myth, the legend, the parable. Stanley from the Stanley Parable. Oh, Q&A with the world's first sentient machine. That's also, I guess, interesting, I guess. To stage, 33333.
This
Couple
was it.
repeats.
One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one.
Wish you were here. Aloha from the freedom ending. Adventure awaits. There's the line, Narrator Airlines, official. 8, I played the demo. 427, I went to the mind control facility and all I got was this lousy sticker. Another 427 flipped over on the other way. Did it say 420 on the chair? No, 427 on the chair. C drive users big and desktop backstage number.doc. You know, I think the worst thing about this is they didn't save them as individual documents. They updated the same number.doc because it's the same file path the entire time. Or are these 3 separate pages of the... Okay, that makes more sense. Right, they didn't just delete the 4 to make the 2. Congratulations, Stanley. Remember where you came from, your co-workers. Ah, nice little adventure line here for us. There's also 2 new ones out here. Doing Great, a conversation with Alexander the Great, as well as featured keynote speaker, the Lord. Just casually. Up again, down again, the Stanley story, how we got here in the first place. An audience with the dude who came up with pizza. I love, like, throwaway gags like this, where you can tell that all of these easily could have been written in conversation just by 2 people, just bouncing off of one another. Like, the dude who came up with pizza, sure, and the Lord, I guess. What about a sentient machine? Fine. You could create that with conversation and script it by dictation, I guess, is what I'm saying. All right.
There was no one here. Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stanley speak, to listen to him talk about what it really means
House lights
to
are just
press
down.
the number 3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved, uninteresting. He was a failure.
House
And
lights
in
are just
that
down.
moment, Stanley knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the 2 of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends.
You hate to see it.
Stanley, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness.
They actually simulate coughing in the audience. Seriously? Just back to the start? There was a line that just popped up there as well. The bucket did not expect something, something, something warmth. Something, something. Figurine Finders Committee meeting today.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I don't think we're seeing anything new in any of these rooms again.
Stanley cradled the bucket in a gentle embrace, protective yet delicate, assertive yet compassionate.
I think the next thing I want to do is actually get the collectible, but how do I get to red and blue as a choice? I think it's by denying everything that that is asked of us. Right? I'm pretty sure it's just by turning everything down, denying the call constantly.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
I love that
Stanley
his notes
decided
were just
to
the
go to
number
the
3.
meeting room. Perhaps
He
he
just
had simply missed a
feels
memo.
full inspiration upon peering on the curvaceous 3.
When Stanley came to
It
a set of
inspires
2
him.
open, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
You can't go there with a
Wow.
bucket? Yeah, that's why I put the bucket down.
This room. What? But eager to get back
Wow.
to business,
Well,
Stanley
no, I
took
think
the
everyone should
first
subscribe
open
to
door
Joe
on his
Chat.
left.
The Republic.
Stanley
So
was so bad at following directions. It's
bad at
incredible
directions,
he
bad at
wasn't
directions. I
5
think it's
years
jump
ago.
off here.
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not.
We need
I
this
realize
Stan
that investing
Marine,
your
this
trust in
figly.
someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly.
Oh,
Savor
sorry.
this moment, Stanley.
I didn't know that's what we were
This
calling him
is
now.
a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
There's a line in Undertale where Flowey accuses the player of being racked with a perverted sentimentality, right? And this is if the player decides to complete the passive ascending, so that's the neutral ending, and then extending it to the passive ascending, and then come back to the world in order to reset the state of the world, putting everyone back in jeopardy just to satisfy one's own curiosity to see just what would happen. Just the curiosity of, well, what if I did it slightly differently? Almost coming up to the line of saying completionism for its own sake in this world is the bad ending. You have ripped these people away from their happiness that you've otherwise earned for them. I really like games that explore this, but the problem with exploring it in Stanley Parable is what do you want in Stanley Parable, right? Like the gameplay, that you're not getting made more powerful in any way. You just want to hear more of Kevin Briding's voice. I'm being flippant about it a little bit, but really what you want to do is have the dialogue, the opinion, the art of the game kind of communicate to you. So anything that makes the work communicate to you in a novel way is a reward, no matter how they want to cut it up.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Aha, perhaps you misunderstood.
Oh.
Stanley walked through the red door.
Got it. Huh? Weirdly, that door didn't work. It's fine. I'll go through the red one then.
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door. All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you.
I want to see this in the Redux.
You see? There's nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end, it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see. Help me here, Stanley. Help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me. You've given me absolutely
I
nothing
think they
so
actually
far.
updated one of these endings.
Tell you what. Let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go
I'm
ahead,
impressed.
Stanley. Take it for a spin. Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here.
I feel for about that.
Okay, so we're getting somewhere. Clearly there's something here that speaks to you. If I can be honest here, I really don't have any idea where I'm going with this. This whole third door thing was just a stab in the dark. But I guess you're into it, so let's keep this party train rolling. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one.
A
Let's
fourth
take a
door?
look.
The Stanley Parable Worldwide Leaderboard. I do almost wonder if this pulls from some actual data. Only 3% of players chose the worst door. I do kind of like habitually turn off social features in basically every game I play if they include things like this. It always feels so almost cloying. Would be interested to see if what the average rate your experience score is. I mean, I have to assume 3, right? But, you know, it could be biased by enough people voting 5 or enough people voting 1. I'm just going for the statistical
Now,
one.
would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please.
Moke says, turns off social features, then streams to dozens of people. Yeah.
Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a
Fair
new
point.
game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you? Perfect. Let me boot it up.
Playtested a bunch of games. I'm
In
ready
this
for it.
game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice.
Seems meaningful.
But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be
All right.
sure to keep notes on your experience.
I don't think we're going to have time for Stacklands because I've got to focus very heavily on making sure I press this button and make...
You
God damn
heartless
it!
Bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try.
A more
I'm
flammable
out.
baby?
I'm out. I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game? Just to ease the pain. Let's see. What do we have here?
Now, this used to be Minecraft. I don't know if it still
Yes,
will be.
This seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
It'd be insane if it was like Doom Eternal. Oh!
Fascinating. What do you think
I
this
never
game is
even
about,
played
Stanley?
Firewatch!
What's our backstory? What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to
Camposanto.
play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower, perhaps for some sort of twisted erotic purpose. Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game, Stanley. And it seems there's
They have a
more.
bucket.
Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
May I take the fire bucket with me? I know it belongs to fire, but... Supplies for 2 forks. Summer Games, Dr. President. Beans and Space Puffs. Also, albacore tuna. Lookout Cookbook and the National Forests of Wyoming. I really think I would have enjoyed Firewatch, to be entirely honest. It was another one of those games that arrived when it was like, how do I engage with anything? That does take a lot of practice, to be fair. That actually might be an image from the original Firewatch there at the back. Flora of the Shoshone. U.S. Forestry Service Guide to Recognizing the Flora of the Shoshone. Illustration by Gary Bars. And Truck Alaska. Okay, so it seems like most of this is just going to be from the default actual game itself. The Singular Mind, Jonas Allard, as well as The Patriots, Donald Anderson. Are those actual novels? And Death Strikes at 2 by Richard Sturgeon. Sometimes I wish I was just like... When I say a little more well-read, I mean at all, right? In having continued to read. Because a lot of the time, there will be... Especially these kinds of, like, you know, more walking simulator, if you want to be as pejorative as you possibly can about it, but, you know, these kind of, like, more narrative-heavy games. Oftentimes they will actually place a real novel that alludes to the themes of the game very, very early on. They're fake novels from the game. They do get referenced, though. Dang. I want to play more games like this. Also, the thing I was mentioning is Campo Santo, right? So the dev team behind Firewatch are now owned by Valve as an in-house development team, I believe. I'm almost entirely certain I'm reporting that correctly. So that makes some sense as to why it's an available property for Stanley Parable, which is also based on the Source engine. Birds of Wyoming is a real book. Highly recommend Birds of Wyoming. Is it exactly what it says on the tin? A book about the birds of Wyoming? We can also see the far distant one over there. Is this, like, exactly how Firewatch looks? Like, I suspect so inside this building, but I suspect the detail of the trees in Firewatch might be a bit more. Bit of a tangent. Have you gone back to Roguewood to try out the new character they added? Not yet, no. I've considered it, though. Maybe we'll find some more people to creep on down here.
Oh, no. No, it can't be.
It can't be what?
It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off. Oh, thank goodness, Stanley. What a close call. You nearly wandered off into that thing. That big, open, just wandering around. No right or wrong directions. No path to follow. You can just go in any... Oh, thank heavens we avoided it. We're out of the woods now, Stanley. Okay, I'm going to get us out of here. Let's find another game. Preferably something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls.
Ape Out. Well, I mean, it's probably got to be under the Valve catalog, right?
I think this...
No, not necessarily, right? But mod developers also. The indie games, broadly. Are we seriously for actual real, though?
See, this is exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now,
it's
this
as well.
is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed. Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We shall run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
Time to slam a Schliebly. You've got the famous flavors of Supreme Schlieb, Schliebly, Schliebly Green, and Schliebly... Hang on. Something beverage. Maybe lychee? Your bitrate or encoder settings hate Firewatch, FYI? That is deeply unfortunate. I was pretty sure I'd set these as well as I possibly could. Dang. Hey. Come on, how do I get airtime? Everyone's gonna laugh at me in the Rocket League lounge if I don't kick
Are you
this
doing
in
it?
with some
Are you
airtime.
winning? Is this fun? Is it better than my miserable little story that I worked so hard on? Stanley, I have a thought. And I realize I'm not a sportsologist, but if one ball generates a certain amount of raw adrenal pleasure, then surely multiple balls makes for an even more euphoric sports experience.
You're not
I'm going
wrong.
to try
Pinball
that.
learned that early
Here
on.
comes another ball. Yes. Oh goodness, that really does feel amazing, doesn't it? Stanley, I'm like a child in a confectionery shop. I simply have to have more. I'm insatiable. More balls.
Finally sounding like a little kingling. More balls! Papa! Papa, I would ever so love it if there were more balls. Can you forward ball?
Are you enjoying this?
Perhaps.
Hold on. What are you doing?
Oops.
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley, come back.
I'm sure I can create my own authorial intent in a world with robust enough storytelling systems. Yeah, let's go through here. Oh! Okay, I failed. I don't know why, but I'm getting some inscriptions vibes, says Velaika. I agree, right? They are games that are aware of themselves as an aspect of a game, right? Let's see if we have a gamma here to crank. Oh dear. Can I have a flashlight, please, game? Or a lantern? I'll buy it for 1800 and we can convince you if you require it. Anything of this sort. We will get back to bright lights as soon as possible, hopefully. Oh. I'm sorry, that's a two-door puzzle. I don't know how to solve those. Far too far for us to read any of that, unfortunately. This would be a good time to up the bumposity. Sorry, the bumpscosity. I do appreciate that. Let's see what 1000 bumpscosity does for us right now. Honestly, we might just get rewarded for interacting with bumpscosity enough overall. I mean, we're here. This has to be where we're supposed to go, right? 427? That's us. We are employee 427. Please, I want to get back to the light because there's no gamma to crank. It's a horror game now. I think they would have warned us in advance of that, right? Oh no. Are they actually?
I wonder what he found.
Just a warning, just a warning in
If what he
case.
wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's
Be
gotten
careful.
it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
I don't think they would suddenly jump scare us. Not very much the vibes of the developer, although it would be definitely surprising in a kind of like, why is there a shot of a bird? Well, because to wake the audience up, they're asleep by that point and I need them to pay attention. Like that kind, there's a part of that I can respect, but at the same rate, I don't know. I feel like I would then have to have my hinges cringed and haunched up for basically the entire rest of the experience, right? Yeah, make it just existential horror. Slow, creeping dread that makes me question my place in the universe.